Okay, Nicholas writes in. Are we doing Nicholas now? Oh, sure. This has been on our list for a long time, and we've never touched on it. Nicholas writes, and I think it's because we've actually touched on this many times before. Nicholas writes in. He says, "Shalom, Caleb. Sorry if you and Rob have spoken about this before, but I'm yet to find a sound explanation as to what the seed of Moses Yeshua refers to in Matthew 23 is. Many Messianics use this as an endorsement of the rabbis, but obviously that can't be it. What do you guys believe it is? I've heard it referring to an actual seat, but I'm not so sure." Now, the last time we talked about this, I think I was put in my place by Mr. Van Hoff. There has been archaeological finds of seats that I believe have some kind of a reference of a seat of Moses. What exactly they were for, we're not sure. I do believe that Rob told me the last time we talked about this that those archaeological finds are late, so we don't find them until later. I could be wrong on that. Maybe Rob can shed some light on that. Before he does, I'll just give you my my understanding of what I believe. I personally believe the seat of Moses was. I believe that the seat of Moses. So what many Messianics are going to say is that the seat of Moses was a place where the person who was in charge, the Pharisee or whoever was in charge, would get up and they'd expound on the Torah. Okay, they would get up, they would give their explanation of what the Torah meant, and this is how we get rabbinic divine authority. So if you listen to some people, I think actually FFOZ, there were some people. There was a conference where they reference. I think they reference the seat of Moses when they talk about giving rabbinic authority, divine authority, which was that whole series was a train wreck. Anyway, but I believe that the seat of Moses is where the Torah was read. That's what I believe. I believe whether or not it was a physical seat or not in the first century. I believe that the seat of Moses is a reference to reading the Torah. So when you hear the Torah, read, but what they say, do. But what they do, right? Don't worry about what they're doing. In other words, they have all these extra things that they're going to throw on there. Don't worry about that. Listen to what they say when they're in the seat of Moses. Rob?
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation.
Boom! Yes, yeah. I got it.
It's true that I think it's at Chorazin up north in Galilee that they're in the synagogue, which I think is 3rd century. So it's much newer. You know, it's a couple hundred years after the destruction of the temple. But it had literally a stone, like throne looking kind of seat, and that actually had in Aramaic graved on it, but it used the Greek word cathedra, which is the word seat. It was spelled in Aramaic letters of Aramaic, cathedra de Moshe or something like the seat of Moses. So, and that's like, oh, well, that could be. There we go. It's a seat that the person might have sat in, maybe on a Sabbath, and taught from or read from, and that's possible. One aspect I think is important here is Caleb already mentioned it, is that Yeshua is not saying become a Pharisee.
Right. Yeah.
He's saying listen and then divide out what is the word of God and recognize that they have works or deeds or traditions of men that you don't follow them. So he's saying don't follow them in a way, but he's saying listen attentively because of the social situation. They're the ones teaching the word of God in the synagogues.
What you're saying right there, we also have to remember that people weren't walking around with copies of their NASB or the KJV in their pocket. If you wanted to hear
KJV, I'm not so sure about the KJV. I think
if it's good enough for Paul, it's good enough for us.
I think the Gideons had the New Testament with Psalms and Proverbs already.
Here we go.
At the first, no.
But the point is that if you wanted to hear the Torah read, where did you go? You went to the synagogue or you went to the temple.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't. It wasn't like
bit to this that we need to remind ourselves too. I think is that the scribes and Pharisees are not on the same page on everything.
Exactly. Yes.
The scribes
or others, or the Sakari, or the Essenes, or any other group.
So he mentions the scribe when Yeshua groups together the scribes and the Pharisees. There's a tension in there, because they're not all on the same page. However, it's we have to remember who's not mentioned. Like you said, the Essenes, the Sadducees. There were calendar issues,
Right.
that it was already dividing. That were already dividing.
Sounds
God's
familiar.
Yeah, all the sectarianism.
Right.
And Yeshua, when he brings the Pharisees and the scribes together, we get the basic truths that Paul never abandoned. I think there are truths that when Paul became a believer, he didn't cease becoming a Pharisee, but he recognized and he got the leaven out, right? It's like, oh, okay, I see where the Pharisees totally went off the rails. Paul would have never become a Sadducee. He would have never become an Essene. Someone who tried to tell Paul about like how to properly, count the Omer, he would have laughed at them,
Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell us your thoughts on this subject by leaving a comment in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and enable those notifications. And we'll see you in the next video.